spend time together. Beautiful square in France, in Montpellier, the quality of public realm. Narrow streets, fairly higgledy-piggledy buildings, active ground floor, fine-grained plots, equals superb city. This is our own project, again on the edge of Reading. This is a small neighbourhood centre, but it has a shuttle bus that takes people down to the railway station. Tons of bicycle parking, has open, sustainable urban drainage rill down the middle. Ground floor proportions, the roofs are slightly higher, so you can have a cafe on the ground floor, or you could have a flat and so on. We'll talk about connections now, and access and movement. This is Copenhagen. For a sustainable world, for sustainable cities, we need a radical move towards walking and cycling. 60% of journeys to work in Copenhagen are now made by bicycle. In London, it's 2%. So it's 30 times more in Copenhagen. Now, is it because Danish people are genetically different? Or did they just design the city in that way over the last 40 years? So in Britain, cycling has declined, and 60% of British men are overweight now, which will, it's thought, take 30% of the NHS budget by 2030. So this is a health issue, it's a public realm issue, it's an environmental issue, it's an asthma issue at the local level, and it's a congestion and efficiency of movement issue. That's Britain. Cycling. These astonishing little cycle attempts to make Britain a cycle-friendly place. If you try to park your bike there, this guy knock your back wheel off and someone will take your front wheel off down here. This isn't proper city planning for cycling. That's it done as an afterthought. This is it done properly. This is Amsterdam. This is Copenhagen. It's an average street in Copenhagen. That's Copenhagen railway station. That's a lovely scene of hippies enjoying themselves out in Copenhagen streets. There's a bike hire system in Copenhagen, some tourists. This is a lovely one we had at the air centre. This is called an Octus. One person steers, everyone pedals, facing inwards. You can have a picnic and a cup of coffee and a nice chat, and you go along in a straight line. Fantastic. This guy clearly looking a bit frustrated on the left here, but he's making his living using his bike in some way. This is fair weather cycling in Copenhagen. This is Curitiba and the transformation of that city through public transport. City of nearly 3 million people now, essentially running on public transport. They're a bit Swiss and German in Curitiba, not typically Brazilian, but they've transformed the quality of life in that city. Designing streets is key. This is not anti-car, as you can see, but the design of that street in Hennef in Germany slows down the traffic so that they respect people crossing the road. And you don't need all the security barriers and safety arrangements and signage and everything. You design the street psychologically so that it prioritises warm-blooded human beings rather than cold-blooded vehicles. More streets. This is Kensington High Street. 2,500 cars per hour. That is not a quiet street. But to produce that central bicycle facility, see the way these women are going straight onto the carriageway. That was seen by the traffic engineer in Kensington and Chelsea to be so dangerous that he wouldn't sign off the redesign because of health and safety fears. So the politician running the cabinet signed it off himself as a personal liability for the redesign. And that's now beginning to happen all over European cities, this reconsideration of the design of our streets. It's Interlaken, in Switzerland, again. Quality of surfaces that we walk on. Why would people walk more unless we improve the quality of the experience through the design of the urbanism, the streets and so on? These are streets we're designing for our own developments in Reading. This is in Auckland, in Waitakere, pedestrians give way to traffic. Electric cars, fantastic opportunity in New Zealand. I think with the pattern of urban development that I've seen here, there's a lot of urban sprawl, particularly Auckland. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to move away from the private car for the medium term. Therefore, electric cars are going to be key because you can't escape your climate change responsibilities, irrespective of what your leading politicians say at the moment. You become an international pariah unless you adapt the way that you have those policies, which means you're going to have electric cars. Fantastic, because you've got probably some of the greatest renewable energy potential in the world. So use that potential to generate energy for your cars, because you can't change your urban sprawl. It's gone so far now in Auckland that you can't bring it back quickly enough in relation to the climate change agenda. Car hire and car pooling schemes are going to be incredibly important. That's a multi-storey car park. It also happens to be a mixed-use building with flats and shops, and you'll see more of those in the future. There's another one in Boulder in Colorado, plus on-street parking. What's wrong with walking? That's fairs. Fantastic experience in the market and fairs, creating that experience of mingling with other people, your fellow citizens on the streets. And who says we can't walk around? This guy must be 80, and he's just climbed about 200 steps in this little village in Morocco. I saw an elderly lady, it must have been about saying, carrying a kitchen table on her back. That's health and that's fitness, and I'm not saying everyone should do it, but just compare that to what we do in Western cities. There we've got the stairs, we could be using them, but everyone's going up and down the escalator. Convenience, yes, it needs energy to drive it, and it's one of the contributors to ill health and obesity in the end. And move on really quickly. European best practice on movement is Basel. 52% of journeys in Basel are made by walking and cycling. Only 17% with just the car as driver. 23% public transport. Hardly a crap city, Basel. Fantastic city. This can be done, is being done more and more around the world. In Britain, according to the latest research, 29% of journeys made by car are made for entirely subjective reasons, which is the distance is not so far, you're not carrying heavy goods or taking your children anywhere, it's just a petrol-head journey. So if you can change that behaviour, if there's an alternative, and there was, for all of those journeys in this study, then that's a remarkable transformation already. 4 steps to transforming transport: provide an environment which favours walking and cycling, together with high-quality public transport, raise awareness of the problems and potential of change, the value of individual action, undertake targeted behaviour change campaigns, which Sustrans in this example did. And just by knocking on doors and talking to people and giving them information about bus routes and cycle routes, they effected a 20% shift away from the car in 7 trial areas across Britain. And then finally, implement demand management to lock in the change, including road user charging. If you do it the other way around, you're doomed to fail politically. People just won't accept it. You have to provide something really good as an alternative, and then gradually work through to the more difficult stuff later. Here's the Sustrans campaign. I'm going to move on from this. The radical greening of cities, climate change adaptation, biodiversity in one fell swoop. This is Vauban in Freiburg. Trees everywhere, green roofs, green balconies, plants. This is Chicago City Hall with its green roof, very famous. This is Islington, where I live, mature trees, providing shelter and cool. This is our own development with planned green roofs on almost every building. When you think about a development, you think of all the quality of space that is on the roofs, and how that can be used as gardens for growing food, for generating energy. This is a barge in Amsterdam growing all kinds of illicit herbs. These are new allotments and gardens that we're planning in the East End. We've done doing typologies for these so that they don't happen by accident. So we've done a food strategy for the Olympics for sustainable food. This is the classic French courtyard, beautiful piece of public land. Famous new scheme in New York, the High Line, the disused railway line, turned into a park for biodiversity, a fantastic piece of public realm. So recycling a bit of redundant industrial infrastructure. Fantastic primary school in Japan. Look at this. In primary schools in Britain, it's like a prison now. You have to get behind this giant security fence. Here, they've resolved the kind of security in the public realm, politeness, by providing a playground in the middle and on the roof. The building is built around trees. Absolutely superb. So the kids in this primary school get this experience early on of city life, but close to nature. What a beautiful piece of design that is. This is our own concept for a primary school in Beyond Green, which we're intending to build in one of our developments. This is a primary school as a village, with its own little high street, a little fish farm, gardens, renewable energy generation, composting, so that kids can learn national curriculum stuff. They can learn about physics, biology, and chemistry. They just do it in a sustainable way using incredibly vivid props that the school itself can provide. Energy. For the Harlow project, 25,000 homes. We did a strategy for 100% locally generated renewable energy. Now,